The distress call. The celestial harmony drifted through the silent void of space, its gleaming silver hull reflecting starlight like a beacon of civilization in the darkness. The sleek scientific vessel represented the pinnacle of Vylari engineering, a race that had evolved without predators or natural disasters on their homeworld, directing their evolutionary path toward cooperation and intellectual development rather than conflict. On the main bridge, Captain Neria adjusted her slender frame in the command chair. Standing at just under 5 feet tall with delicate lavender skin and large iridescent eyes adapted for the soft twilight of her homeworld, she embodied the gentle nature of her species. Status report on the stellar cartography mission, she requested, her voice melodic and calm. Science Officer Talon turned from his console, the gill-like respiratory membranes at his neck fluttering with excitement. We've cataloged 17 previously undocumented star systems in this sector alone, Captain. The quantum resonance of the binary stars at coordinates 874392 shows particularly fascinating harmonic patterns. Neria nodded, satisfaction evident in her expression. The celestial harmony had been mapping this uncharted region for 3 standard months, far from established Vylari colonies. Their mission was one of pure scientific discovery, to expand knowledge, not borders. Communications Officer Vela, send our latest findings to the Science Directorate, Neria instructed. Include a request for additional time to study the binary system. I believe it warrants. She never finished the sentence. A proximity alarm shrieked across the bridge, its harsh tone causing several crew members to wince in pain. Vylari hearing, sensitive enough to detect whispers across a crowded hall, found such jarring sounds physically painful. Unidentified, vessels approaching at high velocity, reported Security Officer Liran, his normally calm demeanor fracturing with confusion. 3. No. 4 ships. Configuration unknown, not responding to identification queries. Display on the main viewer, Neria ordered, rising from her chair. The holographic projection materialized, showing 4 dark vessels approaching with predatory precision. Angular and bristling with weapon emplacements, they resembled nothing in the Vylari database. Their hulls bore no identification markings, no diplomatic signifiers, only a crude symbol resembling a crimson claw. Krell Raiders, whispered Liran, his skin paling to a ghostly white. I've seen restricted briefings on them. They target isolated ships, strip them for resources, and... He didn't need to finish. Every educated Vylari knew of the Krell, a species evolved from apex predators who had turned to raiding and slave-taking after achieving spaceflight. The Galactic community had confined them to their home systems generations ago, but outlying bands still prowled the edges of civilized space. Evasive maneuvers, Neria commanded, maintaining her composure despite the terror blooming in her chest. Communications, prepare a distress signal to the nearest Vylari outpost. The celestial harmony banked sharply, its engines straining as the helmsman executed the maneuver. But the scientific vessel, designed for steady observation and delicate sensor work, was no match for the speed of dedicated raiders. The first impact rocked the ship, sending several crew members tumbling from their stations. Emergency lighting flashed on as primary power fluctuated. Direct hit to our port stabilizers, engineering reported. Panic evident in the transmission. Shield integrity at 63% and falling. Distress signal ready, Captain, Vela announced, her fingers trembling over the controls. Transmit wideband all frequencies, Neria ordered. Include our position and situation. A second. Impact struck with devastating force. Consoles exploded in showers of sparks and the deck plating buckled beneath their feet. The lights flickered, then stabilized on emergency power. Shields critical. Main propulsion offline, cried the damage. Control officer. Captain, Liran interrupted, his voice hollow with dread. They're deploying boarding craft. Neria surveyed her injured bridge crew, the smoke-filled air, the warning lights flashing across every operational display. The Vylari had no weapons aboard their vessels. Their entire civilization had evolved beyond warfare millennia ago. Communications, she said quietly. Is the distress signal transmitting? Vela checked her damaged console. Yes, Captain, but there's been a malfunction in the targeting array. Instead of directing toward Vylari space, it's broadcasting omnidirectionally. Someone will hear us, Neria stated, projecting confidence she didn't feel. Lock down all sensitive research data. Secure all departments. We must protect our people as best we can until help arrives. Unknown to the desperate Vylari, their wildly broadcasting distress signal had already traveled beyond the boundaries of known space. Due to a quirk of subspace geometry, the signal propagated along an unintended vector, straight toward a yellow star system most spacefaring races deliberately avoided. A system marked in galactic charts as an extreme death world. A system called Sole Admiral Helena Chen stood before the reinforced viewport of the UES Thunderchild, her compact frame belying the authority she commanded. Earth Fleet's 5th Rapid Response Division, 5 warships and their support vessels, had been conducting warfare exercises in the Kuiper Belt when the alien transmission reached them. "Play it again," she ordered, arms folded across her chest. The bridge speakers emitted the translated message. "This is Captain Neria of the Vylari science vessel Celestial Harmony. We are under attack by Krell raiders at coordinates 12860594. Our shields are failing. They are boarding. Any assistance is urgently needed. Please respond." Lieutenant Commander Jackson, the fleet's communications expert, shut off the playback. "Translation is approximate, Admiral, but the distress pattern is unmistakable. The signal doesn't match any known species in our database." "First contact situation, then," Chen remarked, her expression betraying nothing of the excitement such an announcement would normally generate. After all, humanity had detected numerous alien signals over the decades, but had yet to physically encounter another spacefaring race. "Tactical assessment?" she asked, turning to her executive officer. Commander Okafor consulted his neural interface before responding. "The coordinates place this engagement approximately 3.7 light-years from our current position, Admiral. Outside claimed human space but within our jump capability. Nearest Earth outpost is the Neptune forward base, 11 days away at standard drive." "And these species? Vylari and Krell?" "Nothing in our records, ma'am," Okafor replied. "Intelligence Division is running analysis on the signal patterns now, but preliminary findings suggest the Vylari evolved in a low-gravity, low-stress environment. The message structure indicates a highly developed linguistic framework built around consensus and harmony rather than command. The Krell, we have even less to go on." Chen nodded, making her decision. In the centuries since humans had ventured beyond their solar system, they had established only one absolute rule of space. Those who could help, must help. Plot jump coordinates. "Prepare all ships for combat operations. We're responding to this distress call." "Ma'am," Okafor ventured cautiously, "protocol suggests we should consult with Earth Central Command before engaging in a first contact situation, especially one involving potential combat with unknown species." Chen fixed him with a level stare. "By the time we get approval from ECC, that ship and its crew will be long gone. The Vylari asked for help. They're going to get it." She pressed the fleet-wide communication button. "All ships, this is Admiral Chen. We have received a distress call from a non-human vessel under attack. We are responding. This will be humanity's first physical contact with an alien species, possibly 2 species. All personnel will observe first contact protocols until otherwise instructed. All combat sections prepare for potential engagement. Medical divisions prepare for possible alien casualties with unknown biology. We jump in 15 minutes. Throughout the human fleet, over 3,000 men and women sprang into action. In armories, Marines checked their powered combat armor and loaded weapons. In medical bays, doctors prepared universal diagnosis equipment and adaptable treatment protocols. In engineering sections, technicians brought weapon systems online and diverted power to shields. Major Darius Reed stood in the Thunderchild's marine staging area, watching his troops prepare. At 6'4", with broad shoulders and dark skin, marked by old scars, he commanded immediate respect from the 40 soldiers under his command. "Listen up, people," he called, and the busy room fell silent. We're jumping into an unknown situation with unknown combatants. Standard xenobiological precautions apply. Full environmental seals, non-lethal options as primary unless I give the word otherwise. What do we know about the friendlies, sir? Asked Sergeant Kelly, a compact woman whose size belied her reputation as the unit's hand-to-hand combat expert. Very little, Reed admitted. Science Division says they're probably a low-gravity species, physically fragile compared to humans. Their language patterns suggest they're peaceful, maybe too peaceful for their own good. And the hostiles? Another Marine asked. Even less information. Called Krell. They're pirates, that's all we know. Reed surveyed his team. This isn't just a rescue mission, this is Earth's first impression on the galactic stage. We do this by the book, protect the innocent, neutralize the threat, and try not to start an interstellar incident. The Marines nodded, their expressions serious beneath their half-donned armor. Unlike most spacefaring species, humans had evolved on a high-gravity world filled with predators and environmental hazards. Their bodies were built for endurance and strength, adaptations that made them uniquely suited for combat operations in the unforgiving environment of space. On the bridge, Admiral Chen watched the jump countdown timer. Any response to our reply? Signal? No, Admiral, Jackson reported. Their communications may be damaged or... He left the alternative unspoken. We'll be there in time, Chen stated, making it sound like an order rather than a hope. The navigation officer announced, Jump. Coordinates locked. All ships report ready. Jump, Chen commanded. In 5 synchronized flashes, the human warships tore holes in the fabric of space and vanished, racing toward a confrontation that would forever change humanity's place in the galaxy. First contact under fire. The Krell boarding party cut through the final bulkhead leading to the Celestial Harmony's bridge. 6 heavily armored figures moved with predatory grace, their scaled bodies protected by segmented exoskeletons. Each stood, nearly 7 feet tall, with powerful limbs and elongated jaws filled with razor-sharp teeth, the unmistakable profile of evolved carnivores. Captain Neria and her remaining bridge crew huddled behind makeshift barricades. Their simple stun batons, designed for protection against malfunctioning equipment, not combat, seemed absurdly inadequate against the invaders. Remember your oath to knowledge, Neria told her frightened crew. Whatever happens, we conducted ourselves with dignity befitting representatives of Vylari civilization. The cutting torch sliced through the last section of the reinforced door. With a screech of tortured metal, the barrier fell inward. The lead Krell stepped through, helmet, retracting to reveal a reptilian face with vertical pupils and armored ridges. Vylari, he hissed, universal translator converting his guttural language. I am Taskmaster Vexkar of the Crimson Claw. Your vessel is claimed. Your crew is now property. Resistance will result in injury, not freedom. Neria stood, forcing steadiness into her voice. This is a scientific vessel protected under the Galactic Concordat. We have no valuable cargo, only knowledge. Release us, and the Vylari Confederation will ensure you reach your home system without... Vexkar's bark of laughter cut her off. Threats? From Vylari? He gestured to his boarding team. Secure them. The specimen chambers need fresh subjects. Before the Krell could advance, an alarm shrieked from one of their communication devices. A subordinate checked the signal, his posture instantly changing from predatory confidence to alert wariness. Unknown vessels, the subordinate reported. 5. No. Confirmation of 5 warships just emerged from jump. Design architecture unknown. Weapon signatures active and targeting our ships. Vexkar snarled in frustration. Interference? Here? We're beyond patrol routes. He activated his communicator. Status report. The response came amid static and background alarms. Unidentified fleet demanding our withdrawal. Threat assessment indicates superior firepower. They claim to be responding to the Vylari distress call. Impossible, Vexkar snapped. No one reaches this sector so quickly. No one intervenes for scientists. Another voice cut through his communicator, this one speaking in a language none present had ever heard, but the universal translator adapted instantly. Attention hostile vessels. This is Admiral Chen of the United Earth Defense Fleet. We are responding to a distress call from the ship you are currently attacking. You will power down weapons, recall boarding parties, and prepare for inspection. You have 30 seconds to comply. The bridge fell silent as the implications registered. Unknown to both the Vailari and the Krell, their brief conflict had attracted the attention of a species neither had encountered before. Earth, whispered Science Officer Talon, the name unfamiliar on his tongue. Admiral Chen watched the tactical display with practiced calm. 5 Krell vessels surrounded the damaged Vailari ship, their boarding shuttles still attached like parasites to the larger vessel's hull. No response to our communication, reported Jackson. They've had their chance, Chen decided. Weapons Officer Patel, target the nearest Krell vessel's propulsion and weapon systems. Disable only. Commander Okafor, prepare boarding teams. Time to introduce ourselves. The Thunderchild's main batteries adjusted with microscopic precision, targeting vulnerable points on the lead Krell raider. Throughout the human fleet, similar preparations were underway as targeting systems locked onto the remaining pirate vessels. Fire, Chen ordered. The space between the fleets lit up with controlled energy bursts. The human ships had not fired wildly. Each shot struck with surgical precision, disabling engines, weapon emplacements, and communication arrays. On the Krell vessels. On the bridge of the Krell flagship, Captain Drazkor reeled as his ship shuddered under precisely targeted fire. "Evasive maneuvers," he shouted. "Engines disabled," his pilot responded, panic evident. "Weapon systems offline. They targeted exactly the right systems. How could they know our ship design weaknesses?" "They couldn't," Drazkor snarled. "Return fire with secondary batteries." Before his crew could comply, another series of pinpoint hits disabled the remaining weapon systems. On the view screen, he watched as the unknown vessels, sleek angular designs with minimal ornamentation, moved, with unexpected agility for their size. "All craft, this is Captain Drazkor," he transmitted to his fleet. "Disengage and retreat. Abandon boarding parties if necessary. These are not patrol ships. Repeat, these are not regular patrol ships." But retreat was already impossible. Within minutes, all 5 Krell raiders had been effectively neutralized, disabled but not destroyed, their crews intact but their ships powerless. Major Reed led the first human boarding party onto the Celestial Harmony. 20 Marines in full. Combat exoskeletons moved with practiced efficiency through the alien vessel's corridors, their helmet sensors mapping the unfamiliar layout and tracking life signs. "Multiple contacts ahead," reported Sergeant Kelly. 2 distinct biological signatures, smaller ones likely the Vailari. Larger signatures match the airlock bioscan, probably the Krell boarding party. Reed nodded, his expression hidden behind his armored faceplate. "Non-lethal protocols active. Remember, the Vailari haven't seen humans before. Let's not add to their trauma. Breach on my mark." The Marines positioned themselves at the corridor junction. Reed raised his hand, then dropped it sharply. "Go." They rounded the corner to find 6 Krell raiders confronting a group of slender, lavender-skinned aliens. The contrast was striking. The Krell massive and heavily armed, the Vailari small and clearly terrified. "Earth Defense Force," Reed announced, his suit speakers automatically translating into standard galactic frequencies. "All hostiles, drop your weapons and assume a surrender position. This is your only warning." The Krell turned, momentarily stunned by the appearance of the armored humans. Then training took over and they raised their weapons. "More prey," snarled Vexkar. "Kill them." The first Krell fired, his weapon's energy pulse splashing harmlessly against Reed's advanced shields. The Marines responded with disciplined precision. Non-lethal sonic pulses and neural disruptors struck the pirates with careful accuracy, dropping 4 instantly. Vexkar and his lieutenant proved more resistant, charging forward with surprising speed. Reed met the taskmaster head-on, his powered, armor increasing his already formidable strength. The Krell's claws scraped ineffectively against advanced composite plating as Reed secured him in a restraint hold. "I said drop your weapons," Reed repeated calmly, as though he weren't restraining an alien nearly his own size. "Don't make me ask again." The remaining Krell, seeing their leader neutralized, finally complied. The entire confrontation had lasted less than 15 seconds. Captain Neria and her crew watched in stunned silence. The newcomers were unlike any species they had encountered, shorter than the Krell but more powerfully built, moving with a controlled efficiency that spoke of evolutionary adaptations to violence the peaceful Vylari could scarcely comprehend. Reed secured the Krell prisoners with his team, then approached the Vylari, his helmet retracting to reveal his face, a diplomatic gesture that nonetheless caused several of the scientists to flinch at their first sight of human features. Major Darius Reed, United Earth Defense Force, he introduced himself, trying to make his deep voice as unthreatening as possible. "We received your distress call. Are any of your people injured?" Neria stepped forward, her large eyes wide with a mixture of fear and wonder. "I am Captain Neria, of the Celestial Harmony. You responded to our call? From Earth, but that's..." She paused, confusion evident. "Earth is not in our star charts. We're relatively new to interstellar travel," Reed explained with deliberate understatement. "Your signal reached our patrol fleet. Admiral Chen decided we should investigate." "You engaged the Krell directly," Talon observed, scientific curiosity temporarily overriding his fear. "No species has directly confronted their raid parties in generations," Reed shrugged, the gesture strange to Vylari eyes. "Someone needed help. We helped. That's what humans do." Throughout the ship, similar scenes played out as more human boarding parties secured Krell raiders and made contact with the frightened Vylari crew. Medical teams followed, their specialized equipment adapting to treat injured aliens whose biochemistry they had never encountered before. On the bridge of the Thunderchild, Admiral Chen received the preliminary reports with satisfaction. "All Krell vessels disabled, Admiral," Okafor reported. "Boarding teams have secured 37 Krell pirates. The Vylari vessel reports approximately 80% of systems damaged but repairable. 23 Vylari casualties, none critical after receiving medical attention." "Open a channel to the Vylari captain," Chen ordered. When Neria's image appeared on the view screen, Chen noted the alien's obvious exhaustion and lingering shock. "Captain Neria, I'm Admiral Helena Chen of Earth. I'm pleased we arrived in time to assist. My engineers report they can help repair your vessel's critical systems. We'll also need to discuss what to do with your attackers." Neria seemed to struggle for words. "Admiral Chen, your intervention was unexpected. The Vylari Confederation owes you a debt we cannot easily repay." Chen smiled slightly. "No debt necessary, Captain. Responding to distress calls is standard procedure for us. But to engage the Krell directly..." Neria shook her head in amazement. "Your species must be remarkably formidable." "We've had to be," Chen replied simply. "Earth isn't an easy world to evolve on." It was an understatement that would soon resonate throughout the galaxy. Part 3. Ripples Across the Stars, 3 Standard. Weeks after the encounter, Captain Neria stood before the Vylari High Council in the luminous Chamber of Wisdom on her homeworld. The semicircular arrangement of ancient scholars and leaders watched her with expressions ranging from fascination to disbelief as she concluded her report. "The humans repaired our primary systems within 6 standard days," she explained. "They provided escort back to Vylari space, transferring the Krell prisoners to our security forces upon arrival. They declined all offers of material compensation, requesting only cultural and scientific exchange." First Scholar Ventry, his age evident in the pale translucence of his skin, leaned forward. "These humans, you say they evolved on a high-gravity world with extreme environmental variations?" "Yes, First Scholar, they call it Earth, a Class 5 death world by our classification standards. Their historical records indicate their species developed amid thousands of predator species and planetary-scale disasters. They refer to their world as challenging, with what I believe is intentional understatement. And yet they responded, To a distress call from complete strangers, mused Security Director Kalen, committing significant military resources without expectation of reward. This behavior seems counterintuitive for a species evolved in such competitive conditions. Neria had anticipated this reaction. The Valari, having evolved in peaceful harmony, often struggle to understand species with different evolutionary paths. I believe, Director, that is precisely why they responded, she countered. Their history forced them to develop strong cooperative instincts within their social groups. They expanded this cooperation outward as they developed as a species. She activated a holographic display, showing footage recorded aboard the Celestial Harmony during the human intervention. The council members watched with fascination as armored humans neutralized Krell pirates with efficient controlled force, then immediately shifted to providing medical assistance to injured Valari. Note the restraint, Neria pointed out. Our medical analysis confirms the humans could have easily killed the Krell. Instead, they used non-lethal methods where possible. High Counselor Ellerix, her position as head of the governing body marked by the subtle luminescence of her ceremonial robes, spoke for the first time. What do they want from us, Captain? All species seek advantage. Knowledge, Counselor. Cultural exchange. They seem genuinely curious about other intelligent life. Neria paused. And they have requested permission to establish a small diplomatic outpost in Valari space. They were most insistent this would be a civilian operation, though they did mention their capacity to respond to regional security concerns if invited. A murmur ran through the council chamber. The implications were enormous, not just for the Valari, but for the established Galactic order. This matter requires careful consideration, Alarix decided. Captain Neria, your first-hand experience with these humans makes you uniquely qualified. You will serve as special liaison to Earth while we deliberate. 6 months later, on the other side of the galaxy, Krell Supreme Commander Zexcor faced his own council, though tribunal might have been more accurate. His massive frame, impressive even by Krell standards, did little to intimidate the 7 clan leaders arranged before him. Explain again, demanded Elder Matriarch Sithra, her scales dulled with age but her eyes still sharp. How 5 ships from an unknown species managed to disable an entire Krell raiding fleet without casualties. Zexcor suppressed a growl of frustration. The recordings from Captain Drazicor's ship have been analyzed extensively, Matriarch. These humans employ advanced targeting systems and weapons designed for precision rather than raw destructive power. Their tactics suggest extensive combat experience. Yet they spared our warriors, observed War Chief Grazicor, his tone making the mercy sound like an insult. Weakness? Tactical choice, Zexcor corrected. Intelligence gathered from released prisoners indicates these humans have different conceptions of strength. They consider restraint to be a demonstration of power, the ability to choose the level of force applied. The matriarch's tongue flicked out, tasting the air, a sign of deep thought among her kind. And their planet? This Earth? Our scouts have confirmed its location, Zexcor replied, activating a holographic star map. A yellow star system previously avoided due to excessive gravitational forces and environmental hazards. Preliminary data suggests surface gravity, nearly twice that of our homeworld, with extreme temperature variations and atmospheric composition that would be toxic to Krell biology. A death world, muttered one of the council members. Yes, Zexcor confirmed. And yet they thrive there. Their physical capabilities reflect their evolutionary environment: denser musculature, reinforced skeletal structure, enhanced endurance. Even without their technology, an unarmed human would be a formidable opponent for a Krell warrior. War Chief Grazicor snarled, displaying rows of serrated teeth. You suggest we should fear these creatures? The Krell fear nothing. I suggest, Zexcor replied carefully, that we adjust our strategies. The humans have already established diplomatic relations with 17 species, including the Valari Confederation. They have offered open trade agreements, cultural exchanges, and, most significantly, security partnerships. Protection contracts, translated the matriarch, grasping the implications immediately. They position themselves as defenders. Yes. Matriarch. And species are accepting. The humans have established 3 response bases in regions previously targeted by our raiding fleets. Merchants now route through these sectors specifically to obtain human escorts. The council chamber fell silent as the Krell leaders absorbed this unwelcome information. For generations, their species had supplemented their economy through raiding operations in less defended sectors. Now, a new player had emerged, one apparently willing to project military power without the territorial ambitions that made other armed species predictable. Recommendations? The matriarch finally asked. 3 options, Zexcor replied promptly. First, direct confrontation, test their capabilities, and resolve with a coordinated attack on their outposts. Casualties? Grazkor inquired. Projected at 60% minimum for our forces based on observed human combat efficiency. Possibly higher. The war chief's scales rippled in surprise. Krell strategic planning rarely accepted casualty projections above 20%. Second option? Avoidance. Redirect our operations away from human-protected sectors. Focus on regions where their influence hasn't reached. Diminishing returns, observed another council member, and a strategy with limited longevity if they continue expanding their security network. Third option? Here, Zexcor hesitated. What he was about to propose went against centuries of Krell tradition. Diplomatic engagement, on their terms. The chamber erupted in hisses and growls of outrage. The matriarch raised a clawed hand for silence. Explain, she commanded. The humans have accepted former adversaries as allies before, Zexcor noted. Their historical records show a pattern. They fight fiercely, then offer surprisingly generous terms once dominance is established. They value what they call rehabilitation over retribution. You suggest we simply surrender our ways? Grazkor snarled. I suggest we adapt, Zexcor countered. The humans need security forces familiar with regions they haven't explored. They need species adapted to environments they find challenging. They offer resources and technology in exchange for cooperation. This is not surrender. It is evolution. One standard year after the rescue of the Celestial Harmony, Admiral Helena Chen stood in the observation dome of Harmony Station, a joint human-Vylari diplomatic and research facility orbiting a neutron star on the border between their territories. Beside her stood Captain Neria, now serving as the Vylari ambassador to Earth. The Krell delegation arrives tomorrow, Neria noted, her English now fluent after months of intensive study. Many of my people still cannot believe they requested these negotiations. Chen smiled slightly. People can surprise you when the alternatives become clear. The Krell are pragmatists at heart. They recognized a changing situation and adapted. They recognize the threat you represent, Neria corrected gently. Though you insist on calling it security cooperation rather than hegemony. There's a difference, Chen replied. We have no interest in controlling other species, only in ensuring safety for peaceful commerce and exploration. If the Krell want to redirect their predatory instincts toward productive endeavors, we're happy to provide opportunities. Below them, the station's main docking bay received a sleek vessel bearing the distinctive design elements of Hextari architecture, yet another species that had established relations with humanity in recent months. 26 species in 1 year, Neria observed. No civilization has expanded its diplomatic network so quickly in recorded history. Chen shrugged. We had a lot of catching up to do, and it helps that we answered that distress call. More than you know, the ambassador agreed. The story has spread throughout the Galactic community. How humans, upon their first contact with alien life, chose to risk themselves for strangers. It contradicts certain assumptions many species held about evolutionary patterns. That advanced intelligence requires a peaceful evolutionary path? Precisely. The prevailing theory was that species evolving amid constant threats would become isolated and aggressive, incapable of the cooperation necessary for technological advancement. Chen laughed softly. We had plenty of that too, but humans have always been at our best when facing challenges together. It's written into our history. Our art, our very biology. This drive to protect, to help, to connect. She turned from the viewport to face her alien colleague directly. You know, we always wondered if we were alone in the universe. Turns out we weren't. We just needed someone to call for help. In the vast control room below, humans worked, alongside Vilari, Hextari, and half a dozen other species, former strangers now united in common purpose. Tomorrow, even the Krell would join this growing community, their predatory instincts channeled toward exploration and protection rather than raiding. All because a distress call had reached the wrong species, or perhaps exactly the right one. In the infinite darkness between stars, other signals traveled, news spreading from world to world of the strange Deathworlders who answered calls for help with overwhelming force, yet offered friendship once the danger passed. Species that had never considered themselves allies found common ground in their relationship with humanity. The humans had arrived on the galactic stage not as conquerors, not as victims, but as protectors, turning the harsh legacy of their evolutionary past into a promise of security for those who had evolved in gentler cradles. It was, as Captain Neria had recorded in her original report, both terrifying and wonderful. A species forged in fire and steel, whose first instinct, upon hearing a cry for help, was not to exploit or ignore but to respond. Humanity had answered the call.